of course, maybe you know your life, this is your memoir, but somebody else is doing the art, you know. And we need to understand that writing is art. I love singing. I sing in the shower. I don't call myself a singer. You know? I love arts, but I'm not a visual artist. You know, I don't know whatever. I've taken some really nice photos every now and again with my camera, but I don't call myself a photographer. So I came back and I was looking for jobs, and you know, it's interesting with looking for jobs in certain industries, you know, like the humanities, when you're looking in journalism and stuff. What always happens is abantu bayakuthanda nje, they want to vibe with you, and they'll buy you booze, they'll buy you whatever, but they won't plug you where work is concerned.
In a world where Africans have lost their roots, it has become of vital importance to document our ways. In an effort to reverse the brainwashing of the past, where we were made to believe our ways are demonic, we are pressed to create dignified and respectful platforms to unpack our spiritual ways.
Umoya Ulight, Umoya Upright. Welcome to another episode of MOYA Political Series, where we bring you guys guests that will help you say the clever things in class. Thank you all for liking, sharing, subscribing. Especially thank you to the members for joining and for helping us pay a few of the bills. We appreciate you. Today in studio, we've got a writer, an artist. You know, artists have been on the radar a lot lately, especially the writers and the authors. So we thought, let's bring in a writer, unpack what kind of work we do, how we feel about what's happening, and our journeys, and what it actually entails to be a writer. Zukiswa Wanner, it is such a privilege to have you here. I've read most of your books, and I'm looking forward to the one that's coming out soon.
Fantastic. It's actually out.
Oh.
Yes. But yeah, thank you very much for having me. Nsigi, how are you?
I'm so well.
And you've been like, obviously, like, I was looking at my life and I was saying, hey, I've been a full-time writer for almost 20 years. But then you've been doing it for even longer, with way back from Phila Sister. Well done.
You know, the thing is that because we don't have anyone documenting our work, it's something that we know about each other, you know, like where I know, you've got bodies and bodies of works. I don't even know. First, let me start at the Wanner surname, actually. You are Zukiswa Wanner, and I wanted to find out, how come is that?
My friend, I told you I'm not going to get the land if I tell you the history. Anyway. So, you know, there are a bunch of Germans that came to proselytize the natives back in the 19th century.
Yes.
And then, well, one of them went native. So instead of proselytizing the natives, he went native and had two daughters who just happened to be my grandmother and a sister.
Okay.
And so they had, you know, his last name when they were born. And then when my dad was born in 1939, my grandmother wasn't married to the father of the child. So my dad got that last name, and yes.
I actually thought it was part of how, you know, how Xhosa's anglicized.
No. It's not even. It's actually
you're authentically half white.
Ma'am, no, that's like 9th generation or something. We're still getting the land at this point.
So you're a writer, you're an author. You know, the first heard of you when you did your series with the maids. Let's actually go from your childhood, who you are, how you grew up. How did you get into writing? You must have had quite an imagination as a young person.
I'm an only child, so I think that helps. You have to have imaginary friends. But I actually didn't think of myself as a writer initially. I loved reading. I come from a very reading family. I was born in Zambia. I'm one of those exile brats. You know, my dad was in exile. was in MK, and my mom was also in exile. She's Zimbabwean. So, and then they met, and then they met, and then I was. Anyway. Anyway, and spent early years in Zambia, and then went to Zim for school. And when I was in Zim, funny stuff happened because they didn't want to get me to travel with a UN refugee card. So my mom knew people who knew people, so I got my mom's last name, and then when sanctions were lifted in South Africa and my dad could return and I could come here for the first time to see my South African side of the family, then I got the Wanner, and yeah, and then I got that, and then that was on my birth certificate. That was now like on my passport. Because when I was born, my dad had a nom de guerre, so I actually had another last name. So you imagine, like, I'm not even 16, I'm 14 or whatever, and I've changed my last name 3 times. And then in 1996, my dad got to know his father's people, because now they were looking for him because he was this hero coming from exile, whatever. And my dad, guys, Xhosa man be scared. At the age of 60 something, he decided he was going to do a name change to his father's people. These people who had done nothing to raise him. And then he said to me, oh, so yeah, let's do this name change. I was like, bro, you're on your own. I'm not changing my last name again. And I kind of thought it was a bit of homage to my grandmother as well. So Zukiswa Wanner, I remained. Okay. And that's the childhood. And getting into writing, writing found me. I didn't find it. I studied journalism in Hawaii. I love saying that.
I'm sure.
I studied in Hawaii. Anyway, yeah, and I came back.
You're a global citizen.
Yeah, I am in a way. Yeah. So I came back and I was looking for jobs, and it's interesting with looking for jobs in certain industries. Like the humanities. When you're looking in journalism and stuff, what always happens is, abantu bayakuthanda nje, they want to vibe with you, and they'll buy you booze, they'll buy you whatever, but they won't plug you where work is concerned. So, but anyway, eventually I managed to get a little gig with Tata Alf Kumalo, the late, and because he saw my portfolio and he was like, oh, we need somebody to do our PR and stuff. So I got working with him, and while I was there, one of his old drum era friends came to visit, and it was Louis Nkosi. And Louis Nkosi, we exchanged contacts, and he went back to Switzerland. So I'd send him pieces of things that I'd written, and he came back, and I remember him saying to me, well, listen, why don't you write fiction? And I very arrogantly say that I was too much of a realist to write fiction. And he said that was the greatest rubbish he'd ever heard. And I took it as a challenge. And he introduced me to somebody, and he said, oh, this is one of the best young writers we've had in this country. And this guy said, oh, here's my card, send me what you've written. I sent him, and then immediately I was so excited. And a week later, he emailed me back and he said, you should consider writing fiction. I don't know whether it was because my nonfiction was so bad, but I sat and I did the very first draft of the debut that you know as The Madams.
Yes,
over that time. And it took me like 2-3 weeks, but I didn't think of it as a book. And I sent it to another drum era writer, so journalist. So, my life is, the wind beneath my wings are a lot of these drum era characters. And Doc Bikisha, and he read it and he called me and he's like, baby. I said, hello, Tata. And he's like, yeah, I'm sending my driver with, your manuscript, some good shit. and do some edits and send it to these 5 publishers. So I did the edits as you suggested, and I sent it to 5 publishers. 3 of them accepted it. 2 of them have been regretting ever since.
Boom.
But yeah, no, but it's been quite a journey. So yeah, and then I wrote. So that was 2006, and then 2000, and then because we're talking about arts and we're talking about what shall not be mentioned, but what shall be mentioned.
Yes.
Yes. You remember back in the day when Center for Creative Arts used to just, they're still doing amazing things, but that time there was Time of the Writer, Poetry Africa, Jomba Dance Fest, they all still exist, Durban International Film Festival. But at that time, Department of Arts and Culture used to fund. It was the time when Paulo Jordan was Minister of Arts and Culture. And I think we used to even feel seen because when he'd do a State of the Arts address in Parliament, he would mention, names, and he would turn up. You'd see him at book launches. You'd see him at
he was an artist.
You'd see him at book launches. You'd see him at Jazz Fest. You'd see him at gallery openings. And we should have just given him a doctorate for that, Nje. Yes.
Scandal.
Anyhow, so I remember I got I think the Madams was we did the launch because, well, when it came out, I asked my publisher, I said, oh yeah, so what are the launch details? And my publisher said, we don't have money for a launch. And I said, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't have a budget for a launch? I'm like, this person who's written this book, and I'm like this black woman, and I thought launches are supposed to happen.
I've arrived.
Yeah, I know. Hello. Anyway, but I then went to June Joseph's at Shara Books. When Shara was in Newtown. I went to June Joseph's and I said to her, please, can you help me launch my book? And she said, can I get the blurb? I gave her the blurb. She's like, oh my God, this is so exciting. We're looking for something like this. And I've got the person who will be in conversation with you. Don't worry, it will be catered for, everything. And so the first time, then I went to, they circulated everything. It was beautiful. And we went to Shara Books and it was packed. They had a mailing list. And we launched at Shara Books. And Noktula Mazibukomsmang was my discussant. And this woman with a PhD in literature and stuff. And it was fun and it was beautiful. It was like Thursday and then Friday. Friday afternoon, late afternoon, I got a phone call from Sherwin Bryce Pierce. Remember you used to do Weekend Live before you went to the abroad?
Yes.
Yeah, so Sherwin called me and said to me, can you come on Weekend Live? We'd like to discuss the Madams. And I said, yeah, sure, but what time? He said call-in time is like 6:30 or something. I said, bro, I don't have transport. He said, oh no, don't worry. The national broadcaster will send you a driver. And I was like, oh my God, this is what it means to be a writer. This is exciting. So anyway, they sent me a driver, came to get me, and Sherwin, it was just like the most beautiful discussion, like he had engaged with the text so beautifully, particularly because he just got it at the launch on Thursday, and this was now like a Saturday. And it's the standard that I now expect from everybody. Like from then, it was just like, that was the standard I expected because I'm like, you have to do it like Sherwin. And then, in December, I got an email from Peter Rovik. Remember Peter?
Yes.
He was the director of Center for Creative Arts at that time. And he was like, oh, we'd like to invite you in March for Time of the Writer and so forth and so on. And then I immediately was like, in Durban. Yes, I'm definitely coming. You know? So I called my cousin and I was making plans because my son was like a year old. I was making plans like, okay, so you'll come and you'll stay with my son. This is there for a week. And I was thinking to myself, I'm going to take a bus to Durban, this and that. Then in January, they sent me, where will you be flying from and where will you be flying to? And this is how much we're going to be paying you. Is that okay? And this one's going to be your per diem. Is that okay? I was like, oh, wow, you paying me. You know? So it was very exciting. And I think that was actually the time that I quit. I used to work in civil society. I quit my day job because I was like, I want to try for 5 years and see whether being a full-time writer and just living off, like working in the arts, can work. If it doesn't work, then I'll go back to, slaving for, whatever, to the plantation. And it was a very foolish decision because I had a 1-year-old child in Ziki. So that was silly. But I then decided, yeah. So I started doing that and I just... Oh, and when I got to Time of the Writer, when I got to Durban, there was somebody with a placard.
With your name?
With my name. And then, we had somebody assigned to us at that time. And they said, yeah, welcome. And the person assigned to me was like, I loved your book. It was one of the things they were required to do. The volunteers. And they were all required to read our work before we came. So I felt like a celebrity for that week. Until I went to... Because I left there and I went to Cape Town. Oh, and then of course I was in the newspaper, like on the front page, which was exciting.
Famous.
I was like, how I have arrived. Nah, this is me. Then I got to Cape Town, and I was with a few friends, Abo Masha, Leabo, etc. And then somebody said, and then we're like walking, and then somebody said, in the bathroom, they saw us. They're like, "Oh my God, can you take a can I take a photo?" And then I said, "Can you take a photo?" And I said, "Yes, sure." And I was like getting ready to, like that smile that you've prepared, like when I win a major award smile.
Yes.
And they gave me the camera because they wanted me to take a photo of them with Lebo. Yeah, well, and I was like, wow, okay, yeah, okay, been humbled. Here's the pie. I've eaten it, but yeah.
That's an interesting dynamic though, because the concept of celebrity and art.
I know, right?
Yeah, isn't it a bit dodgy?
It is. Well, it is, right? But I think because of the way that it happened, there was a level of that. And isn't celebrity really just being celebrated? Don't we celebrate our great writers? And, we celebrated Sisidanga Rembwa. We celebrate Enamata Aidu, the late, may she rest in peace. We celebrate Wale Soyinka and Maria Maba. I think we should celebrate, artists while they live. I do, however, realize that lately, at that time maybe I was like, oh my God, excited about it.
Yeah.
But now it's one of those things where I'm like, oh God, really? The other day I was on the Gau train and somebody said to me, and it was full and I was going to Centurion, and somebody said to me, oh my God, Zukiswa Wanner, can I take a photo? And it was packed. And I didn't know what to do with that, So I was like, yeah, sure. And they took a photo. And then I got up way before the stop because now I didn't know where to look. Because
now.
Yeah, what must happen now? And it was like, and it happened like 3 days running on the Gau train. So I was like, okay. And then the other day I was just walking I think on like fourth or whatever, somebody was driving and they yelled out Zukiswa Wanner, and I'm like, oh my god, now I can't even like do anything shady. I just can't like whatever because
Yeah.
so
You're a famous
anyway.
writer.
Imagine, but I don't know whether that should be celebrated. I'd rather people know my books than know my face.
What is there's been a hot topic lately, like what makes a writer?
Well, yeah, okay.
Because I think the youth is a little bit confused, no?
I don't think the youth is confused. I don't think the youth are confused. I have, in fact, tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday, I have a long-running workshop that I do, annually
Uh-huh.
with like the literary journal Lole, and I have people who are like 20, and I also have like older people who want to come out with stuff like 60 years old, and I think people who read know what makes a writer. Yeah, that's my diplomatic answer.
Yeah. People who read
Yeah, know
know
what a
what is
writer
a
is.
writer,
Yeah.
right? Because remember there was a phase of celebrity memoirs. There was an era of that, and also that kind of creates a confusion because if someone
Guys, it's so weird for me because when you're like writing on your bio after you've told somebody your story, and you write on your bio and you put author, author comes from the word authority, you know? You're not, dude. Of course, maybe you know your life. This is your memoir, but somebody else is doing the art, you know. And we need to understand uh, that writing is art. I love singing. I sing in the shower. I don't call myself a singer. You know, I love arts. But I'm not a visual artist. You know, I don't know whatever. I've taken some really nice photos every now and again with my camera. But I don't call myself a photographer. You know, and people in the arts know that. I have every now and again seen something on Instagram or whatever, and I tell my tailor, oh, can you make this dress like this and this? It doesn't make me a fashion designer. Let's respect each other. And
right?
let's respect art.
I was thinking about, I mean, with the recent developments, I mean, we said we're not going to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it a little bit.
We're not going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it.
We are going to talk about it a little bit. You know, I was thinking about, when they were saying no, it's to make it the list inclusive. When the minister was saying no, he didn't put on the usual suspects. And I suspect that the usual suspects are the legit writers. And he was putting in new faces, he was saying. And I just feel as if when there's a conference for like radiologists or ocean scientists and stuff,
Oceanographers,
do you
yeah.
know what I'm saying? Do they also do that, or do they have the legit radio? Are they gonna have a radiology conference and call the nurses?
No, but that's when you understand that maybe we have a minister that doesn't understand his ministry. In 2012, when we had the now Deputy President Paul Mashatile as Minister of Arts and Culture, you see, a lot of politicians assume that arts and culture is a demotion. It's the worst thing. Anybody with intellect, sorry, that's not to say people don't have intellect, but I'm just saying.
There's
But
a variety of people.
anybody who really thinks about it properly would realize that Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, as it's called now, Department of Arts and Culture, as it was called then, is potentially the most powerful ministry in any country. Listen, you don't have to do much. If I were Minister of Arts and Culture, what I would do is I would be asking for a list of designers. Yeah? I'd ask for a list of designers, and I would be wearing outfits by South African designers. Those are artists. I already have people in my good stead. 1. 2, I would make sure that my department tells me when is there, what is showing in theater, where are the exhibitions, who is, exhibiting something, where are the book launches. Obviously, you can't go to all of them, but, if a minister selected quite a few and they went there. Minister of Arts and Culture does not need a speechwriter. Minister of Arts and Culture has a lot of writers under them. What a Minister of Arts and Culture would do, if they were being very clever about it, is instead of one person, they would say, these are the events that I'm going to, and they would say maybe like they would select, I don't know, if they're doing 5 events, they select 20 writers. And they say of these 20 writers, okay, you're all going to get 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, each. It's probably less than they're paying the one person, or maybe 5 writers or whatever, 5 writers at 5,000 each and whatever, and they each do a speech, and then you select the best one for the events that you're going to go to, where you need to make a speech, and you pay the writers, and then you take another batch of writers, and then you take another batch of writers. Who is going to be the favorite minister? The Minister of Arts and Culture. Then you go to the things that everybody has been complaining about, all the artists. We've been doing Artists in Bezos, for years, every year. And earlier I was asked, in August, the minister is doing a Bosperad. Do you want to come through? I said, no, I'm pretty sure people in the ministry who are still the same people can go and look in the archives and see the things that we've been asking for since 2008, which is, can we ensure that royalty payments are different? Can the Minister of Arts and Culture communicate with the Minister of Education so that you see how to be in sync? It is insane that there's not a lot of South African, very few South African literature that's going on in the Ministry of either higher education or even basic education. And yet, we are outwriting this whole entire continent. How is it that, I could have my books used at a school in Kenya, in Nigeria, but not in my own country? Is that not insane and absurd? Then there's the issue of royalties. What's the standard? What should be the standard payment for each of the industry, whether it's literature, But there's also the issue of the fact that when actors act, you can't be giving them, they should be like a basic salary. You can't be giving them, they shoot generations and then you decide that you're going to show generations all over the world, but then the actors who acted, they are not getting anything out of it. As a collective, we'll also get the situation where you've had to set up a company, I've had to set up a company so that I pay myself whenever I want to buy anything. But really, why are we taxed like full-time employees and yet we aren't able to access loans and stuff and everything? This is something the minister could do. Basic stuff. Talk to SARS and say, listen, our industry is a bit different. This is how we'll do it, listen, we're going to have like a particular artistic insurance. It can't be normal that every time we fundraise when one of us dies. It can't be normal. Yeah.
Medical aid, retirement annuities. But we're working the most.
Yeah.
We don't have 9 to 5. We are juggling.
No, but also, I mean, I often say a lot of people don't understand this because people are like, they always look at the arts as a hobby, How many times have people said to you, Msiki, like, yeah, no. So, yeah, why don't you write a poem about this? Like you can throw up poems, you know? It's like you can just sit and like, oh yeah, here, poem. Because I suddenly have had people who say to me, oh, I need to tell you my life story. It's going to be a bestseller. Okay, I'm not sure, but let's hear it. Yeah, I was the first person in my family to get divorced. Ooh, wow. Well done, you know? So there is a need to actually have people who understand what they're doing in the different departments. How many people would know, for instance, if you went to Department of Arts and Culture, to the literary section? Well, they might know you because you've caused them too much wahala now, but how many of them will know, say, an Angela Makolwa, Ntikeng Motlele, C.A. Davids, Bobby Boswell. Yes, Minister, if you're watching, these are actually colored writers. Shafina Zassim, many other writers. How many people, if they walked into that ministry, would know them? And yet, that is supposed to be our home. But the people who work in that department look at it as just jobs, you know. They don't see how it is that, hey, listen, we could actually make this vibe. We could make it happen. We could make it work.
So sad, the disconnect between the ministry and the arts.
Mm-hmm. And because of that, because of the constant belief that being in the arts is a demotion, society even
What do you mean
believes
when you
it.
say that? Unpack that for the audience. When you say being in the ministry is a demotion?
No, because essentially people assume that if you are made Minister of Arts and Culture, you are not important. Remember when a certain party was governing party for the longest time, and always when they're pissed off, when the president is doing a shuffle, they throw the person who they're not happy with to Arts and Culture, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then they don't even engage, and a lot of these guys genuinely think art and culture
Yeah.
is what?
Yeah.
Is music. Music is the only arts that they know. Genuinely. There was a minister who shall go unnamed many years ago who was Minister of Arts and Culture. But I mean, anybody who wants to do research can find it. And we had Wale Soyinka as a guest in Cape Town for a dinner, for a gala dinner. So there was this gala dinner for Wale Soyinka, and of course, all of us were excited. The first African Nobel Literature Laureate at the gala dinner. The minister didn't make it, but at least he sent one of his advisors, who was then our National Poet Laureate, Jose and the minister couldn't make it. He was pressed, etc. Yeah. The next day, we saw the minister and we understood why the minister couldn't make it. We didn't see the minister in Cape Town. We saw him in Sunday World because he was at Durban July. Yeah. To the minister, it was more important to be at Durban July than to host the Nobel Literature Laureate, the first African Nobel Literature Laureate. But there we are.
There's a disconnect in, often I'm finding that we have to explain that art is quite an intellectual space, contrary to how it's viewed. So, I mean, it speaks to how us as artists, we can speak to people on the ground as well as kings and queens. Just the way we move through, you know? So, what do you think is the breakdown? And this might be connected to that question earlier on when I said celebrity and art. So, how do we tackle it then? If on a fundamental level we don't understand what the arts are?
Well, I think it doesn't help matters that there is this thing, and it's not just here, it's all over the continent, that of pushing STEM, you know, science, technology, like whatever, without the A, without the arts. So it's not STEAM, it's STEM. And I always say I do not trust an artist who doesn't engage with science. I also don't trust a scientist who doesn't engage with art. And I'll tell you why. Before we could have any Dolly the sheep getting cloned, at least 100 years earlier, Mary Shelley had written Frankenstein. So first, it's the imagination. I want my scientists to be imaginative so that they're able to experiment and see, if I do A, if I do B, and this and that, will I be able to get this medication? Will I be able to invent this stuff? Similarly, I want my artists to engage with science enough to be able to question, how does this come about, and so forth and so on. I am constantly, like in my books, always trying to find a different profession that I get to learn about when I'm researching, so that I get an insight, how does this work? Because I don't trust artists who are not curious. And I don't trust scientists who are not curious either.
Yeah.
Because if you are not curious as a scientist, then all you're doing is you're regurgitating stuff that has been done by by so many other people. And really, in what way then are you a scientist if you're not? And if you're an artist, both scientists and artists are creators, you know? And if you're an artist and you're not curious beyond, and I've seen this sometimes, beyond your own particular field, if all you do as a poet is only ever engage with other poets, only ever hang out with other poets, only go to poetry slams, and you don't go to the theater, you don't go to an art exhibition, you don't go to a science fair, I'm sorry, I can't take you seriously, because I don't think that you are able to play with words and create and whatever around if you're just like stuck in your own silo with people who are like you know?
Yeah. Let's get into your body of work now.
Yeah.
I mean, how many books have you got under your belt now?
I've got 5 novels. I've got 4 children's books. I've got 1 travel book. I have 1 satirical nonfiction, and I have that long form essay on Palestine that I did in 2023. Yeah, so I have, yeah, that's. But I have to tell you, the Love, Marry, Kill, which is my latest novel.
Yes.
I had actually taken a hiatus from novel writing. The last novel I wrote was in 2024, in 2014. So it was like a 10-year hiatus. But I mean, I was doing a whole lot of other things in between.
Yes.
Literature related, of course. I mean, there was the children's books.
Yes.
There was the travel memoir. But I also then started curating something called Artistic Encounters, which is where, I'd get like, I wanted literature to talk to other art forms. So I'd have maybe like a musician and a poet.
Yeah.
And then they create a work. I'd have a visual artist and a little text from a writer, and then the visual artist draws what inspiration they got from it. Or I'd have it was a performance, a dancer or an actor, performing a little passage or whatever. So it's incredibly fulfilling. I love doing artistic encounters, and I'm hoping that I can get back to it in the next a year or so,
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, no. I love words, I love art, and I love seeing just, how we make everything happen with everything. And, yeah. So,
What is your creative process, Vele, when it comes to your writing?
I don't write when I have nothing to say. There are people who do like 1,500 words a day and stuff. I don't write when I have nothing to say. I tend to have everything in my head, and I walk around with an idea, and then I I walk around, and when the story is cooked, then I sit down, and then I kind of like frantically just like vomit a first draft in the space of like 2-3 weeks type thing, like really like, and so by the end of that 3 weeks or whatever, I'm just like out. I just want to sleep, and I usually take like a week, 2 weeks off of just not doing anything, and just reading and binging on like even like television shows and well, reality
just move
TV
away
or some
from the
stuff.
piece,
Yeah.
from your
Yeah,
baby.
yeah. And then I usually send it to my beta readers, and what I try to do is, because I try to send it to readers like maybe like in like a reader in say Nigeria, a reader in Kenya, a reader in the Caribbean, a reader in South Africa, and I'll say, read and give me feedback. And because I'm South African, there's certain things that I might overlook, but when they give me feedback, then I'll say, okay, maybe this doesn't translate quite well. So what I will try to do then is, usually after it comes back, after I get feedback, I'm normally like, I'm very precious, like,
Yes.
what do you know about my work? So
Yes.
I read their comments and I usually let it go. And I always advise this also when I'm doing writing masterclasses. I say to people, when you get editorial feedback, let it go. Don't immediately react to it, because you get defensive. And I leave it for a week, and then I come back to it and I'll say, okay, this I agree with. Nah, this I'm gonna keep. This, that type of thing. And when I've done that second draft, then I send it to my agent and I say, what do you think? And Sharon is a New Yorker, so she'll be like, she'll send me back and she doesn't understand context or whatever. But if she doesn't understand context, if I've used like a word in Shona or Xhosa or Kiswahili or whatever in my text, and she doesn't understand it, it means I haven't written it well, because you should be able to understand it from context. With the next sentence. So if she doesn't get it immediately, then I'm like, okay, maybe I need to tweak how I say it. I don't want to remove the language, because we're colonizing the colonial languages now. But let me see how I'm going to twist it. And then so after she's given me feedback, then we send it to publishers. Yeah.
And now this latest one, let's unpack.
It was such a fun book to write, and I've been hoping to, like, there's a novel that I started and I parked because it's serious and it's a historical novel.
Okay.
And I essentially started Love, Marry, Kill as like my little, okay, I'm getting away from this heavy subject, but it was just so much fun to write, and I just finished it, and I had so much fun. I was lucky that MOYA University in Eldoret in Kenya, they gave me a fellowship, so I didn't have to worry about like paying my bills. And I just went and I rented a place. So I'd wake up at 2 in the morning because that's when I write, and I'd write up until 6. Then I'd go running. I'd come back and I'd shower and I'd sleep, wake up, have something to eat, then read over what I'd written the night before, then eat, go to sleep, then wake up and do the next chapter and do the next chapter and do the. It was just the most fun. I finished the first draft because my fellowship was like I think from October, November, December, January, February, March. Yeah, no, September, October, November. So it was 6 months. But I finished the first draft already. I went into the fellowship a bit late. I did it 4 months as opposed to. And I finished the first draft after like 2-3 weeks, and I sent to my readers. They gave me back feedback in, so that over Christmas, I was working over the second draft. And then I sent to my agent, and I finished the third draft, which is generally my books are published after 5 drafts. But the third draft is usually like as close to the last thing as you'll get. And I finished that third draft on Valentine's Day 2023. And I was so elated. I got up and I went running and I ran my first half marathon. So I was happy. So yeah, I achieved 2 things. I finished the book and I did a first half marathon. Yeah.
When you're writing prose, there's this fatigue that hits, but it sounds like you don't get that one.
No, I love it because it's, I don't know, I enjoy it so much when I'm it's like the characters take over, and
So it becomes like a soap opera.
yeah, the characters take over. I remember when I was writing the Madams, and I was talking to my cousin, and I said, I'm gonna shoot him, and then my cousin's like, why are you gonna shoot? And I was like, never mind. I actually meant Nosizwe is going to shoot Mfundo, type of thing, right? But I really like just get into, So it's a bit like, it's a weird thing. It's a bit like being possessed.
Yes.
It's a bit like being possessed.
Yes.
Maybe all those people who think they're what you call it, it's just they just need to be writers.
Yes.
They just need to write prose.
So same with actors, the
Yeah.
same.
So it's that process, but then the moment when I'm done, so I do enjoy that, but the moment I'm done, that's the reason why I say I usually have to take off like a week or whatever, just to veg, a week, 2 weeks, to veg and come back into my own type of thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I want you to brag some more about the new book and where people can find it and
Right.
how
Okay.
they can access it.
All right. So, Love, Marry, Kill. I like controversial. You know me. I like controversial writing. So, Love, Marry, Kill is the story of.
I just love drama. I know, like.
Do you want me to read you an excerpt?
You're welcome to.
I think so.
You're
wait.
welcome to.
I've got the Kenyan, the East African version. Look how spicy this cover is.
Ooh la la.
With the legs and the lips and the
Ooh.
ring.
Yes, sis.
Yeah. So let me see.
This is available at Exclusive Books.
So it's available at Exclusive. It's available at Bargain Books. It's available at Exclusive, Bargain Books. It's available, please, at Book Circle Capital because that's a black-owned bookstore by 27 Boxes.
Okay.
It's available pretty much any good bookstore near you. Okay. So let me read this because it's spicy. So, a man and a woman who are married to other people fall in love. That's the precept of the book. And, yeah. That's the love, marry, kill. You know. And
And your publishers are not going to block us with our monetization
no,
for reading this.
No,
Okay.
not at all. No,
Okay.
because this version is not here.
Oh,
This
okay,
is
fine.
That's why I brought this one.
Okay, cool.
The what you call it, the Southern African version and the West African version are green in color, but different shades of green.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, so now this man has been, so the wife of the man who's cheating has found out, and she called the woman and said, "Stay away from my man, otherwise I'm going to tell your husband." So now they've seen each other, they've parted. So he gets home, and she's icing him, and then the child goes to sleep, right? And then he's trying to figure out, okay, so he's figured out how she got to know. The desktop at home. Everyone used that desktop. He had needed to send some specs on a job that he and Duduzo were bidding on. He was tired when he sent the email last night, so he had not logged out of his account. She'll tell him later that night, after Nyereti went to bed, that she had seen the emails between him and Wami. There was one thing that hurt her the most about them, she said. The emails. For years, you have said Valentine's Day is a commercial cliche, and yet there you were, not working in Limpopo, as you told me you were, but you were actually with her. Dinner, Market Theatre for one night in Miami, and then after, you two went to Nikki's to celebrate Zuma falling. Then you spent the night with her, and you two ate cheesecake that you had baked for her. Cheesecake.
We get it.
You didn't think the kids and I would like cheesecake too?
We love writers.
Thank you, South Africa, for the inspiration. Anyway.
So that is part of the process. You check what's going on around here.
Well, yeah,
Because of cheesecake.
No. To be fair, I think there is a legal question to be answered there, that you'd need to prove that you're the only person who's ever had this happen to you, right? Are you? Are you not taking it?
It's a big, big world.
Yes, it's a massive world.
But you said you're launching it again as a relaunch.
Yes, it's I tried to do a few launches. So this was, I've done I haven't really done, I did a little pre-launch in East Africa, and I did a launch here, like in at Exclusive, but we're doing, because I'm a JIAS fellow, so JIAS decided that they wanted to host me, but they decided they wanted to do it nice and fun and whatever. So we're having it on the 27th, on Thursday, next week Thursday, and decided that we wanted to put a little zhuzh to it. So one of the things that, there's this question, how far would you go for love, and how far is too far? And so we asked people to please send audios on a number on WhatsApp and just say, this is what I would do, this is what I do. Or tell us what they've done, like, I once bought a man a house, and then I paid my dowry, and then next thing I found him in bed with the mother of his other child. Like,
yes.
And then of course I know men also have their stories, and people in same-sex relationships. Sometimes I swear, like, my friends in same-sex relationships, I'm like, why are you guys duplicating the problematics of heterosexual relationships, right? Anyway, so yeah, there's drama, but human beings are messy.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what type of relationship you are in.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's love, marry, kill.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, Sisuk, it's been such a pleasure to have
It has
you.
been such a pleasure chatting with you, Ziki.
Oh my
And
word.
don't stop fighting. Let's not stop fighting. But I think also, um, yeah, let's not stop fighting. Let's not stop questioning, because people keep. I keep saying that we don't have any other home, and we are seeing the way the world is going, that there is just like everywhere Africans are not wanted anywhere. So if we don't fix this place that is our home, whether in the arts, in politics, in science, in whatever, we are doomed. So rather than be doomed, let's question those in power. Let's ask for the best. And let's not make a plan.
Yeah.
Because making a plan is giving them a free pass. Let's not make a plan. Let's say, by the way, where is the budget speech?
Yeah. But now the danger is that imagine a minister of arts and culture threatening threatening an artist with a lawsuit because they're questioning.
I think that was bullying, There's bullying that goes on, and when you look at the idea that the bullying is always towards somebody they think is at the bottom, it's not something that the Minister of Arts and Culture would do with a white man.
Yeah.
We know this for sure. Yeah. He would never. So the bullying is usually because it's punching down.
It's an abuse of power.
Yeah, it's punching down. And a lot of bullies like to punch down, to people who are not as powerful as they are, or people they perceive as not as powerful as they are. But as long as we have pens, they can't defeat us. Because you and I know the pen is mightier than the what?
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
Whew, there we have it. Thank you so much, Moya Rice, for joining another beautiful episode of Moya. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you so much to the members who are giving us a little bit every month to make sure that the bills are paid. And if you look at the bottom there in the comment section, there is a $sign that says just to say thank you in case you want to buy us some coffee. See you again next time.
Who are you when all you were has been diluted by lies and white lines cancelling out all that which has been written of your history? Why do you look at yourself as a mystery? Doesn't the sun shine because you open your eyes? Doesn't the moon stay situated within the same stars your DNA sparkles off? Your spirit knows that surely corner into it off. Buza umoya so you may return to being well off. Because spiritually you are rich, yet your ancestors cry because you are out of reach. But yours is to command all elements while God takes inspiration from the very mirror she looked at to become. Remember who you are and never finish just when they think that with you they are done.